Hey, and welcome to Courageous Conversations, where you can be a part of real, authentic conversations around the fire with experienced and trusted voices who care about the next generation of leaders. My name is Jean Bartine, and I get the pleasure of being your host as we go through this series. This series is an extension of something that's been happening on our team for years, where seasoned veteran teammates pour into the next generation around a fire. I've been on the Activated team for 2.5 years now, and I personally have been profoundly impacted by times and conversations like these. So I'm really excited to offer you the opportunity to be a part of these conversations as well. It's my most sincere hope that you'll receive just as much and maybe even more than I have as you participate with us. These lessons are some of the most impactful ones that we've unearthed across 30 plus years of our team working with church leaders, as well as the many, many years of cumulative ministry and leadership experience that David and Kirk have under their belts. Today, I'm excited that we are kicking off this series with a conversation that's all about discovering and cultivating a way to be that can honor and serve God's call on your life. It's our hope that as you participate with us in this conversation, you'll discover and start living into this way of being that makes your spouse happy, your kids glad, and acknowledges the Father's face shining upon you. So sit back, find a place where you can be present, and let's jump in.
So we'd like to talk tonight as we open up this whole series about a concept which Z and I have found is largely unexamined, and in our lives went unexamined for decades. And it has really, really been a game changer. So I want to suggest to you that we as younger leaders can cultivate a way of being that can actually support and champion the call of God on our lives. So I want to talk for a few minutes to younger leaders, and I want to suggest to you that your lunch is being eaten and you don't even know it. There is a way of being that you can cultivate in your young lives that can completely change the game and support and actually champion you to fulfill God's call in your life. And yet the notion of way of being, certainly in my life, I was completely unaware of it for decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably not until into my late 40s that I even get introduced to this idea that there's a way to be in my own skin, in my own body, in my own life, in my own circumstances, that can either undermine my effectiveness, which is what it had been doing, or it can actually serve to multiply it.
Yeah. It was completely off my radar as a senior pastor for 25 years. In fact, it was so much of a foreign concept. I was a activity-aholic. As my leadership in the church went, it was about getting stuff done. The quality of leadership was how effective are you getting stuff done, the results. And so when I started hearing about the difference between being and doing, it was quite odd and surprising and
Stunning, maybe
confusing to me.
Wow.
It's like, what are they talking about? And so I've come to understand that an unexamined way of being in the life of a leader profoundly undermines their effectiveness as a Christian leader. And that's really what we want to talk about, is one's way of being and the incredible difference. So Kirk, talk about
what it is and all that.
What it is, How do we recognize it?
The way it was explained to me is way of being is not what you're doing, it's who you're being while you're doing whatever you're doing. Who am I being? Like, I'm thinking, what on earth are you talking about? And so a parallel way to think about it is we often talk about on our ministry team is your come from. What are you coming from as you walk into this meeting? What is your motivation? What's behind the thing that you're saying right now, the things that you're doing, the way you're carrying yourself, the way you're interacting with people? Because the crazy thing is, you guys, is your come from, it always leaks out. People get it. I think,
Yeah.
like an example is, I come in the house, the family's watching TV. It's a school night. We have a rule: no TV on school nights, and they're all sitting there watching TV on a school night. And I walk in, and it doesn't matter what I say, they know Dad's ticked, right? And they're like, "Talk to the hand, Dad. You know, you just go upstairs because we're watching our program."
You get the roll of the eyes too.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I do the eye rolling, but so again, so it's where am I coming from? Like, what's motivating the things that I'm saying and the things that I'm doing, and what's the attitude of the posture of my heart?
Wow. There you go.
So you come home from work, and your spouse is there, and so you ask your spouse, "How was your day?" You ask Emily, "How was your day?" Right? Well, you can ask, "How was your day?" from a variety of come-froms, right?
Yeah.
For example, you could be thinking, "Well, I'm a Christian man, so this is the obligatory thing. I have to ask her how her day is. I really don't care how her day is, and I hope her day's been fine. I hope the answer's fine because I got a ton of stuff I got to do, or I got a splitting headache, or I got a whole bunch of junk on my." Oh. If I ask her, then she'll ask me, and then I can unload because I've had a horrible day, and I really want to tell her about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's come from, right?
Yeah.
Or my come from is I've been feeling distance with Annie, and so I really should ask. But why am I asking? For my
for
need,
you,
right?
for
Because
you.
I'm longing for a connection,
Right.
which is not the same thing as, "Hun, how was your day? I really want to know." Like, I want to become the guy who really wants to know.
Wow.
Right? And that's the thing we're talking about. What we want to suggest to you is that a leader's come from, when we nail it, when we walk in it, will generate what we call outsized influence. Here's an example. Think about the last time you were in a meeting that you're required to attend. Let's say one of our team meetings, or for a typical pastor, a staff meeting. Yeah, right?
Elder board.
Yeah, so are you in the meeting? I was in most of our team meetings.
Oh no, here we go.
I know, right?
Yeah, this is good. I'm glad the camera's running. The sound in it. This is actually confession.
Yeah, it is. It is good for the soul, they say.
Yeah.
My objective was to leave the meeting without being assigned anything else to do. And that's all I was trying to do, is get through the hour and get on to the next, because I had a ton of stuff to do. I got a bunch of pastors I got to be coaching with and lots of projects I'm working on. So I just want to get through the freaking staff meeting and not be assigned anything else on my plate. And if I could do that, versus another person who might come into the staff meeting, and what their come from is to maximize every team member's contribution.
Wow.
How different, right?
Yeah.
How different the way those two people, let's say it was me and you, right?
Yeah.
The way the two of us would interact with you, eye contact, energy, right? Like the whole thing, your presence is so noticeable.
Yeah.
And when your presence is, I'm just trying to get through this thing and get to the end of the hour so I can get off to the important stuff, people get that.
And Nick, you're in a coaching relationship, I think, with Kirk.
Yeah.
So what have you noticed about his way of being?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So I've been on the team about 8 years, and it was at least 4 years ago that I went to Kirk and I said, "Hey, I'd love to become a better coach." And he offered to coach me as sort of a way of modeling it, and because he's been coaching for years. And so when you come to a coaching conversation, you bring the topic that you want to talk about, or the problem that you want to work through. So Kirk's a teammate and my coach, and there are times on the team where we think differently in terms of strategic direction, and I've actually come to those coaching calls and said, hey, I want to work through this.
I bet that's interesting.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
And Kirk's on the other side of the fence.
He's on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
As a teammate on the other side of the fence.
Right.
Oh, boy.
But what's been incredible is he has actually been able to like remove that teammate hat and put that aside and be with me in a way that is resourceful to me.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe he's manipulating me as we're coaching together, but not unlikely.
I'll
right?
never
Is that
tell.
the Hippocratic coaching oath?
No, but in all seriousness, it's masterful how he's able to set aside, his opinion, his the way he sees
Preference.
his
Like
preference,
that,
Yeah.
and just be able to be with me, for me, in a, as you said, like non-anxious way.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's working with me.
Yep.
And that I'm going to leave that coaching conversation and probably run on something.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I come away with
fair.
takeaways,
That's
right?
real. Yeah.
So, Kirk, can I ask?
Yeah, buddy.
What's going on in you in that moment?
a good question.
What produces that? I want
Yeah.
to produce that.
So
You want me to answer that for you?
do you want to answer it for me?
Yeah, well, let me tell you.
Here, I'll move my list, but you talk. Right?
Yeah, but what I really mean is,
I love that.
I'm sorry, go right ahead.
So when I was working in the Christian character development ministry,
Yeah.
and we'd use the example of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. He had all of his emotions. And as your coach, I have all of my emotions, right? But Jesus, so much emotion that it says he sweat as it were great drops of blood, right?
Wow. Yeah.
That's a guy under a great deal of stress.
Yeah.
You can't deny that, right?
Right.
And yet Jesus subordinated his psychology, his emotionality to his vision, which was to fulfill the Father's will. And I'm not trying to make myself an equivalency.
Wow.
Except, there you go. Except to say that
That's good, though.
to serve you well, brother, and to love you well, I have chosen to subordinate my preference and my desire to be comforted by the strategic decisions that we might make. Yeah, because I'm here to serve you as your coach, and I do think that that's a surprisingly powerful example of when we say way of being can produce outsized influence.
Wow.
Because you get that I'm for you.
Right.
And for every one of us in ministry, if the people that we're serving and serving with get that we're for them, and we don't need them to perform for our approval, because, and the only way I can do that is if I know that God's got me, you, it, and us.
Yeah.
And if God's got me, you, it, and us, then it doesn't even matter if we completely make a terrible strategic decision. God's got us.
It's so crazy because I don't know of another, like, outside of this environment, I don't know of another experience I've had with ministry and work where someone has had the wherewithal to so separate and set aside that, like, preferences and all that stuff, to be with me in that kind of way. I know you don't want me, you don't want me to toot your horn or whatever.
No.
But it's like,
Right.
it's so unusual.
And I experienced him like that with me. You know, like, and he'll bring correction because I blow stuff up all the time with my big freaking mouth, especially. And he'll say, but, you know, buddy, that wasn't your best day. You know, like that wasn't your, you know, your shining hour. But he said, but you'll always say this: I'd rather have a dozen guys like you on my team that I got to go around and clean up after because of the plus side that comes as well with it.
Yeah. And when I hear you guys have that exchange, it causes me to consider the way in which Kirk is with you He resists being hooked by whatever it is that is in opposition. When you say he took off his teammate hat and put on his coaching hat, what he was doing was removing the conversation from it being about him. And I love the example that sets, Nick and John, for Christian leaders. In the midst of potential tension or chaos or crisis or circumstances that don't go our way, can we allow it not to be an identity conversation that is about my performance or my need to control or my value? When I'm talking to my wife, it happens all the time. Can I have the awareness that I can be with her in a way that disconnects it from what I make up about my identity? So I have to win something, or I have to prove something, or I have to become somebody I'm not for whatever reasons. And so I just love the power of a leader who is aware, attentive, growing in this ability to make it about somebody else authentically, genuinely, wholly. And I think the example you gave is perfect.
Yeah, I want to just add that I think as a person, I feel loved in that moment.
That's good.
I feel so loved.
Yeah.
It's real important.
Because I'm like, wow, he has set aside.
And you see it. He's setting something aside.
Yeah, I mean, the depth of love I know he has for me through his, I should just be talking to you.
Talk to the camera.
Kirk's not here.
It'll play better in Hollywood.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's just it's such a, if I sit back and think about it, I'm like, man, Kirk really loves me. Yeah. And so next time when we're in a conflict or we're disagreeing and strategic, he's got chips in my bank now that are like, right. I know Kirk loves me. I know Kirk loves me.
And so can my spouse sense that I love her when I can do that? Do my kids sense that I love them? Does the congregation sense that I love them? Does the board of deacons, the elder board? I mean, do people get, when we suspend our own preference or need to have it turn out a certain way, when we're for them and in it with them, do they sense the genuineness of that connect? That comes from a way of being that gets set by who we are
in
while
Christ.
while we're doing what it is we're doing.
Who we're being.
Who we're being. So I love it.
When I think about what you guys are saying about way of being, it just reminds me, and I've actually said this to other people, but there have been times, maybe in a high stakes moment in a team meeting, where maybe things aren't going well, and maybe there's a post-it on the wall that is gone awry for us, and watching the way that you've led us, DZ, I tell people it's like you're just cooler, not like cool as in like wearing the hippest clothes. I love the way you dress.
But the skinny jeans.
But the skinny jeans are very cool. But I mean cool like it's just like, you're walking on the hot coals and it doesn't even seem to be bothering you on the outside. And I watch things, there's one example in my mind, but I've seen it many times, right? And I've seen you do the same thing, Kirky. There's no outside effect. No matter what turmoil is going on, it seems like everything's fine. And it just strikes me when that happens and I'm watching it, because I feel the turmoil and I look at you guys and it's like,
why don't you care?
It's a peaceful day in your world, and it blows me away.
It's thank you for those kind words, and that's very gracious. I'm thinking about a couple things as I hear that. One is, a lot of times I have no clue what I'm doing.
We call it humble.
I'm trying to hide that I don't have a clue of where to go with what has just happened in front of me, and yet I think Kirk and I both have enough data points in our lives as Christian leaders that God has rescued us and the circumstance and the situation to convince us we don't have to be in charge. We don't have to control people.
Couldn't if I tried.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It's a fool's errand. We go.
That's right.
You know, as a young leader, I'm so trying to manage the room, manage the conversation, right? Manage the dialogue.
Because I want it to turn out my way, a certain way.
A certain way.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I've already thought about it, prayed about it, and
I get that.
so keep going.
Yeah. So, but by the time you move through your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, you're like, shoot, man, I can't do that. And either God's got me or He doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And if He doesn't, I'm hosed, and the world's hosed. I mean, if God doesn't have this, if God isn't who He says He is, then we're all in deep weeds, to use a Gary Mays-ism. But knowing that God's got us, like this weekend, right? We were in Detroit doing a workshop with a bunch of people I don't know, and I'm just completely clear that God's got this thing.
Yeah.
How do I know that? Because I've just seen Him faithful.
Yeah.
Like you have, and like you have, and like you have. We've seen Him faithful over and over and over again. And if He's got us, then we don't have to overfunction.
Yeah. And so when we talk about cultivating way of being, another aspect is to train ourselves to expect, to believe and expect that God is in charge. He has us. He has the circumstance, He has the church, He has the team, whatever it is that
Our finances, whatever.
Everything. And so we're training ourselves to count on God doing what only God can do. So I'm in a team meeting and team members get wobbly with each other, or tensions arise, which is expected when there's a robust, honest conversation. And rather than try to manipulate people, I can let people as adults be adults and responsible for their own way of being. And so I've come to just trust God more, that He's got us and He's got this and He's got them. And so I can rest inwardly. I don't have to get anxious about how to resolve this. And it's part of it is learning that tension is actually necessary. It's the ingredient for potential breakthrough.
Yeah,
For discovery.
Yeah.
Right? And so allowing tension's going to be there. If you get honest conversation, there's going to be tension. And so those are...
That's not a bad thing. It's not something to be avoided.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Takes something to welcome.
Right. One's way of being...
In the tension. Is the game.
Yes, correct.
There you go.
So let me try this on you guys.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I'm hearing you right. When we're talking about a way of being that produces this presence we're talking about.
Yeah.
To the example of asking Annie how her day was, it's not just being others focused. It sounds like it's actually, from what I'm hearing you say right now about like it's knowing God's got this, it sounds like it's almost like, I don't know, is it like being more present with God in the moment rather than more present with what you particularly want from the moment? Or I'm trying to figure out how can I make sense of this in my head.
Yeah, or is it, hopefully we're becoming more Christ-like too. It's like
totally.
That piece.
Yeah.
That's where my head goes too with it.
Right.
Yeah.
How does that fit with the paradigm you guys are?
I think there's a quote from Susan Scott, who wrote Fierce Conversations, that I think is really helpful. And she says, fully present, prepared to be no place else. And so what I think one of the attributes of this kind of way of being that we're talking about is when my way of being is centered in the confidence that God has me, I can be fully present to my life no matter what it is.
That's good.
So no matter what it is.
That's good. Cancer diagnosis.
Yep. You had one of those?
I had one of those 12 years ago.
Yep.
You had a horrific accident.
You had a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Breathtaking. Yeah.
We've had ministry calamity and disappointments. People come, people leave. All of those. We have family issues, marriage issues, parenting stuff. I mean, it's just the life is ripe with opportunities, right? And the beauty of walking with Jesus for decades is seeing God in those moments,
faithful over and over and over again,
to train us to more quickly, more easily realign ourselves with the Spirit of God to move us past the crisis, right?
Yeah.
I haven't ever walked on water, but I hear the voice of Jesus and I want to get out of the boat. So, it's like, okay, I've been here before and I don't have to get caught up in the moment. I don't have to rely upon myself. I don't have to perform.
Right?
Perfect.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what happens when I yield my need? What happens when my heart is adjusted and trained to rely upon God? More and more and more and more, which I think is actually probably what we're committed to helping Christian leaders, particularly pastors, realign to. So I want to bless you guys with the power of an authentic way of being that is transformative, that brings other people into a whole new space and reality. So I bless you with an increasing love for Jesus. I bless you with an outsized influence beyond anything that you ever dreamt of. And I bless you with the courage to embrace who God really declares you to be for His purpose. In Jesus' name.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing I'll add to that is I bless you to comprehend, it's funny, the width, the depth, the height, the breadth of the love of God for you. He's got you. He's got you. He's got your loved ones. He's got your circumstances. He's got your finances. And I mean that for the two of you, but I mean that for everybody listening as well. If Christians understood how fully God has us, we would be the most calm, confident people on the freaking planet. And everybody could tell.
Yeah. Amen.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Thanks.
Yeah. That's it for our time around the fire today. I hope that you enjoyed being a part of this conversation as much as I did. That blessing at the end, it was spoken to Nick and I, and it was meant for you just as much as it was meant for us. I hope you received it that way. If being a part of this conversation has been helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Not only does it give us feedback, it also helps other people to participate. We have so many more conversations coming your way after this one. If you want to be notified as they get released, don't forget to ring that bell. Also, we're going to be interacting down below in the comment section. So if this conversation has you wanting to respond to us in some way, leave your comments and questions down there. Here's a challenge for you. What is one highlight that you took away from this conversation, and who is someone who would benefit from hearing about that highlight? Right now, send them your highlight along with this video so that they can be a part of this conversation as well. If you don't have a highlight, I want to encourage you to actually listen to this conversation one more time. I know that all this information all at once can be a little bit like drinking water from a fire hose. And we really believe that God wants to meet you in a special way in this space. I'm so excited to host and take part in this series with you. And I hope that this conversation about a way of being has got you leaning into what God is up to in you. I don't think that you're here by chance. Growing in who I am while I'm doing what I'm doing has been one of the most life-giving efforts I have ever made, and I believe it will be the same for you. As I said before, we have so much coming in the next weeks and months, and we want to build on the foundation that this first conversation has laid. So I would encourage you to spend some time with the Lord, inviting Him in as you're cultivating your way of being between now and next week. Until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you and make His face shine upon you.